The first ambassador from the Velthari Collective materialized in the United Nations Assembly Hall on a Tuesday morning, its crystalline form refracting the harsh fluorescent lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. Commander Lysander Voss watched from the gallery, his scarred hands gripping the railing as the alien's translated voice echoed through the chamber. "Your species fascinates us," the Velthari said, its voice like wind chimes in a hurricane. "We have observed your planet for centuries, witnessed your endless conflicts, the Napoleonic Wars, your world wars, the resource wars of 2089, such beautiful, terrible violence." Voss felt his jaw clench. 20 years commanding the European Defense Corps had taught him to recognize condescension, wrapped in diplomatic language. The alien continued, oblivious to the growing tension in the room. "We offer membership in the collective a chance to transcend your primitive nature. No more war, no more bloodshed. We will teach you the ways of peace." Secretary General Elena Rostova leaned forward in her chair, "And if we refuse?" The Velthari's form shimmered, and for a moment, Voss could have sworn he saw something predatory flicker in its translucent features. "Why would you refuse paradise? But there are others in the galaxy less understanding of your violent tendencies. The Hakmer Dominion, for instance, they view warlike species as problematic." In the silence that followed, Voss's mind raced through tactical assessments. He'd studied every piece of intelligence they'd gathered since first contact 6 months ago. The Velthari claimed to be peaceful, but their ships bristled with weapons that could glass continents. The implied threat was clear: submit or face something worse. "We'll need time to consider," Rostova said carefully, "of course, but do not take too long. The galaxy is vast, and patience finite." After the alien departed, Voss found himself in the Situation Room beneath the UN building, surrounded by the planet's top military leaders. Admiral Keiko Nakamura, head of the Pacific Defense Fleet, slammed her palm on the table. "They're buying time," she said, "setting us up for something." General Marcus Brennan, the grizzled veteran of the Australian Outback campaigns, nodded grimly. "The Hakmer Dominion they mentioned, our deep space sensors picked up massive energy signatures, moving toward the outer system 3 days ago." Voss studied the holographic display showing Earth's defensive positions, orbital platforms, asteroid mining stations converted to fortresses. The joint fleet humanity had built after the resource wars ended. It looked impressive until you considered they were facing technology that could fold space-time. "What are our options?" President Sarah Chan asked from the secure link from Washington. "We fight," Voss said simply. "It's what we do best." Chan's image flickered with static. "Against gods with starships. They're not gods," Admiral Nakamura interjected. "They bleed. I've seen the classified reports from the probe incidents. Anything that bleeds can die." Voss nodded, memories of 100 battlefields flooding back. Verdun, Stalingrad, the siege of New Singapore. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. "They think our history of warfare makes us weak, that we'll be easy to control or eliminate. They don't understand that every war taught us something new." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Outside, across the globe, millions of people went about their daily lives, unaware that their species hung on the edge of extinction or enslavement. "How long do we have?" General Brennan asked. Voss looked at the long-range sensor data again. "Maybe 2 weeks before the Hakmer arrive. The Velthari will use that time to position themselves for whatever comes next. Then we prepare for war," Admiral Nakamura said. "Real war, the kind that decides whether a species lives or dies." As the meeting broke up, Voss remained behind, staring at the tactical displays. Humanity's greatest weakness, their endless capacity for violence, might just be their salvation. The aliens had made one critical error. They assumed war had weakened humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first shots of humanity's war for survival came not from the approaching Hakmer fleet, but from what should have been a routine patrol near the asteroid belt. Captain Raven Torino was commanding the U Spartacus, a retrofitted mining vessel bristling with improvised weapons. When her sensors detected the anomaly, "Captain, we've got spatial distortions off the port bow," called Lieutenant Dmitry Koskov from the sensor station. It's big." Torino moved to the tactical display, her cybernetic eye analyzing the data faster than any organic brain could process. The distortion rippled like water, and then something vast emerged from folded space. A Velthari dreadnought, its crystalline hull catching starlight like a prism. "Red alert," she ordered, her voice cutting through the bridge's sudden tension. All hands to battle stations. The alien ship was beautiful and terrible. Nearly 2 kilometers of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. Compared to the Spartacus's angular, utilitarian design, it looked like a work of art. But Torino had seen enough pretty things try to kill her during the Martian insurrection. To know beauty meant nothing in combat. Incoming transmission, reported. Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka. Put it through. The Velthari's voice filled the bridge. Harmonious and cold. Human vessel, you are trespassing in claimed space. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. Torino's scarred face twisted into a grim smile. This is Captain Torino of the United Earth ship Spartacus. These are human territories, recognized by the Solar Accords. You're the one trespassing. Crystal Brain. The alien's response came not in words, but in a lance of coherent energy that vaporized an asteroid 3 kilometers to starboard. The message was clear. Mom, whispered Koskov, they just hit that rock with enough power to crack a moon. Torino's mind raced through tactical options. The Spartacus was outgunned, outmanned, and facing technology centuries ahead of human capabilities. A sane commander would withdraw, report back, live to fight another day, but sanity was a luxury humanity had abandoned long ago. Koskov, give me everything we know about crystalline structures. Tanaka, patch me through to the other patrol ships. Nguyen, she called to the weapons officer. Prep the mining charges, all of them. Lieutenant Commander Ellen in Nguyen's eyes widen. Captain, those are industrial explosives, not military grade. Every war teaches you something new. Torino cut her off. Mining charges are designed to fracture crystal formations. Let's see how their pretty ship handles a little percussive geology. The next 30 seconds stretched into eternity. The Velthari dreadnought moved with fluid grace, its weapons charging for what would certainly be a killing blow. But Torino had learned warfare in the ice mines of Europa, where split-second timing meant the difference between breakthrough and burial. Now, the Spartacus dove toward the alien ship, engine screaming at maximum burn. The Velthari's beam weapon fired, carving through space where the human ship had been moments before. Torino felt the heat wash over the hull as they skimmed past the energy discharge, mining charges away. Nguyen's finger stabbed the firing control, and a dozen industrial explosive packages shot from the Spartacus's cargo bays. They weren't guided missiles, just chunks of explosive accelerated by magnetic launchers. The Velthari's point defense systems activated, elegant beams of light intercepting most of the charges, but not all. 3 mining charges struck the alien ship's crystalline hull, and the universe held its breath. Then the explosions hit, and Torino's theory proved devastatingly correct. The shape charges, designed to create precise fracture patterns in asteroid crystal, sent spider web cracks racing across the dreadnought's surface. The beautiful, terrible ship shuddered, its perfect symmetry marred by jagged wounds. Atmosphere vented in glittering streams, and the internal lights flickered. Direct hit. Koskov shouted, "We actually hurt the bastard." But the Velthari weren't finished. The dreadnought's return fire came like the wrath of a dying star. Energy beams carving through the Spartacus's port armor. Alarms screamed as hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. Hull breach on decks for through 7. Reported damage. Control Chief enters grim. We're losing pressure fast. Torino gripped her command chair as the ship bucked under the assault. Round her, the bridge crew fought their stations with the desperate efficiency that had kept humanity alive through centuries of war. Captain, Tanaka called out, the other patrol ships are moving in. Hannibal and Wellington coming in fast. Through the tactical display, Torino watched as 2 more converted mining vessels closed on the wounded Velthari ship. The aliens had superior technology, but they'd made a fatal mistake. They'd given humanity time to learn. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the aliens arrived, Torino allowed herself a moment of savage satisfaction. The Velthari had expected easy prey. Instead, they'd found wolves. The battle in the asteroid belt sent shockwaves through both human and alien command structures. Within hours of Captain Torino's Pyrrhic victory, the Spartacus had survived, but barely. The Velthari collective's response was swift and merciless. Admiral Nakamura stood in the Strategic Command Center deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, watching real-time sensor feeds as alien ships materialized throughout the solar system. Not the elegant dreadnoughts they'd seen before, but sleek destroyers that moved like liquid mercury through the void. A-Team confirmed contacts, reported her aide, Commander Felix Ramirez. They're targeting our orbital defense platforms. The holographic display showed the developing battle in 3 dimensions, and Nakamura felt her stomach clench. Humanity's defensive grid, built at enormous cost after the resource wars, was being systematically dismantled. Luna Base went dark. First, its fusion reactors overloading under alien bombardment, then the Mars orbital platforms, their Gauss cannons falling silent one by one. "Give me General Voss," she ordered. Voss appeared on the communication screen, his face grim from the European Defense Command. Behind him, Claxons wailed as staff officers coordinated the evacuation of civilian populations to underground shelters. "Nakamura, please tell me you have good news. The Velthari are moving faster than we anticipated," she replied. "They're not just positioning for conquest, they're preparing the field for the Hackmer arrival. Intelligence suggests the Dominion fleet will be here in 72 hours. Voss's scarred face hardened. "What about the counterattack plans? That's why I'm calling. We need to accelerate Operation Broken Glass." The plan was desperate, born from humanity's bloodiest lessons. If they couldn't match alien technology ship to ship, they dragged the fight into the killing grounds where human experience mattered most: close quarters, urban warfare, and the kind of brutal, grinding combat that had defined their species. "Military evolution, the civilian casualties will be horrific," Voss said quietly. "The casualties, if we lose, will be worse." 3 hours later, the first phase of Operation Broken Glass commenced. Across Earth's major cities, evacuation sirens wailed as millions of people descended into subway systems, underground malls, and basement shelters. What they left behind were carefully prepared killing grounds. Lieutenant Colonel Miranda Vasquez crouched in the ruins of downtown Geneva, her augmented reality display highlighting Velthari ground forces advancing through the streets. The aliens had taken the bait, landing troops to secure strategic positions before the Hackmer arrived. "They move like dancers," whispered Sergeant Major Isaiah Cross, adjusting his rifle's targeting system. "Graceful, but predictable." Vasquez nodded, watching the crystalline figures glide between abandoned vehicles. The Velthari were beautiful even in their armor, their movements flowing like water. But beauty had never stopped a bullet. "All units, this is Overwatch," came the voice of Colonel Anya Volkov from the command bunker. "Target is confirmed. Light them up." The first exchange of fire lit up the Swiss evening like a deadly aurora. Velthari energy weapons, carved through concrete and steel, but human bullets found their marks with mechanical precision. The aliens' armor could stop most projectiles, but not the depleted uranium rounds fired from electromagnetically enhanced rifles. The battle devolved into the kind of urban nightmare that had defined human warfare for centuries. Block by block, building by building, room by room, the Velthari's advanced technology meant little when they were trapped in stairwells, designed by human architects for human defenders. "Contact. 3rd floor," Cross called out, his rifle chattering. As he laid down suppressing fire, a Velthari warrior's crystalline form shattered under the impact of his armor-piercing rounds. Alien blood, a luminescent blue fluid spattering the walls. But for every alien that fell, humanity paid a price. Private Jensen screamed as alien energy seared through his armor, the smell of burning flesh filling the corridor. Corporal Martinez bled out in Vasquez's arms, his last words a curse in Spanish that needed no translation. The fighting spread across the globe. Tokyo, New York, London, Sao Paulo, every major city became a battlefield where humans died by the thousands to claim each alien life. News feeds showed the horror in real time. Children's hospitals bombed by alien cruisers, refugee columns strafed by Velthari fighters, entire city blocks reduced to rubble. But humanity held. In the tunnels beneath Moscow, Captain Alexei Petrov's engineers triggered charges that brought down a kilometer of subway system, burying an entire Velthari battalion in concrete and steel. In the favelas of Rio, street fighters armed with improvised weapons picked off alien scouts with the patience of apex predators. "They're adapting," reported Major Lisa Park from the Australian Defence Corps. "The Velthari are learning our tactics, changing their approach." Admiral Nakamura studied the global tactical display, watching as human losses mounted. 40,000 dead in the first day, 80,000 by the second. The numbers were staggering, but they were buying precious time. Long-range sensors are picking up massive signatures at the edge of the system. Commander Ramirez announced. The Hackmer fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Through the reinforced windows of the command center, Nakamura could see the lights of Denver burning in the distance. Humanity was bleeding, dying, fighting with a desperation that would have broken lesser species. But they weren't broken. Not yet. Signal all commands, she ordered. Phase 2 of broken glass is authorized. It's time to show these bastards what total war really means. The arrival of the Hackmer Dominion fleet changed everything. Where the Velthari were crystalline elegance, the Hackmer were biomechanical nightmare ships that looked like they'd been grown rather than built, pulsing with organic life and bristling with weapons that fired concentrated death. General Lysander Voss stood in the ruins of what had once been the Louvre, now serving as his forward command post in the battle for Paris. Through his tactical display, he watched the Hackmer dreadnoughts take position in high orbit, their shadow falling across a planet already bleeding from 3 days of continuous warfare. "Sir," called Major Helena Durant, his aide-de-camp, "we're receiving transmission from the Dominion flagship." The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing something that made even veteran soldiers step back. The Hackmer commander was a fusion of flesh and machine, its multiple eyes glowing with predatory intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Humans, we are War Master HFY of the Dominion. Your resistance ends now. Surrender, and we will grant you swift extinction. Continue fighting, and we will make your deaths educational." Voss studied the alien cybernetic features, noting the scarred flesh where organic meant machine. Here was a creature that understood war, not as the Velthari's elegant dance, but as the brutal calculus of survival. "This is General Voss of the United Earth Defense Corps. You want to take our world? Come down and try." HFY's mechanical limbs clicked in what might have been amusement. "As you wish." The second phase of Operation Broken Glass had prepared for this moment, as Hackmer drop pods began raining from the sky like metallic meteors. Humanity revealed its most desperate stratagem. Every major city had been rigged with nuclear charges not to destroy the aliens, but to create killing fields of radioactive rubble where human forces could fight on equal terms. "Detonation authorized," came Admiral Nakamura's voice from deep underground. "All units, clear blast zones." The nuclear charges that devastated downtown Moscow weren't weapons of mass destruction. They were tactical demolitions, precisely calculated to create urban labyrinths of twisted metal and radioactive debris. Humanity was poisoning its own nest, turning Earth into the kind of hell world where their species had learned to thrive. Captain Isabella Russo led her Marines through the glowing ruins of Rome, her radiation counter clicking steadily as they hunted Hackmer infiltrators. The aliens' biomechanical nature made them partially immune to radiation, but not to the brutal close-quarters fighting that humanity had perfected in 1,000 wars. "Contact front," whispered Corporal Kim Ozawa, her thermal scope picking up the heat signature of a Hackmer warrior. Moving through the rubble ahead. Russo hand signaled for her team to spread out, using the tactical formations developed in the street fighting of the Syrian crisis 40 years ago. The Hackmer might have superior technology, but they'd never fought in the bombed-out hell that humans called home. The alien rounded the corner of a collapsed cathedral, its biomechanical form moving with predatory grace. It saw the human position. A split-second delayed. Russo's squad opened fire simultaneously, their flechette rounds designed to penetrate organic armor, while the electromagnetic pulse grenades scrambled the creature's cybernetic components. The Hackmer warrior fell, its death scream echoing through the radioactive ruins. But victory came at Acostazawa's suit had been breached by return fire, as she was bleeding internally from the alien's bioweapon that turned human blood acidic. "Medic," Russo called, but they all knew it was too late. Ozawa smiled through blood-stained teeth. "At least I'm taking some of the bastards with me," she whispered, activating the Deadman switch on her equipment pack. The resulting explosion brought down half a city block, burying a Hackmer patrol squad under tons of irradiated concrete. Across the globe, similar scenes played out with mechanical precision. In Beijing, Colonel Wei Zhang led Chinese forces through subway tunnels flooded with chemical weapons, turning the underground into a death maze where humans, protected by sealed suits, hunted alien invaders who couldn't adapt to the toxic environment fast enough. In London, the Thames had been deliberately irradiated and seeded with bioweapons that targeted non-human cellular structures. British forces used the poisoned river as a highway, their modified patrol boats carrying nuclear torpedoes into the heart of Hackmer landing zones. "Casualty reports coming in," Major Durant announced, her voice strained. "We've lost 12 million civilians in the nuclear demolitions alone. Military casualties are approaching to 100,000. Voss felt each number like a physical blow, but his expression remained stone. And alien losses? Estimated 8,000 HFY KIA, maybe 15,000 Velthari. The exchange rate is. She paused, calculating. Approximately 800 human lives for every alien death. In any conventional conflict, such numbers would have meant immediate surrender. But this wasn't conventional warfare, it was extinction protocol. Humanity was spending its blood like currency, buying time and space for the final gambit that might save their species. Sir, Duran continued, Admiral Nakamura reports that Operation Prometheus is ready for implementation. Voss nodded grimly. Prometheus, humanity's last card. Born from their darkest understanding of warfare, they learned in the trenches of World War I that sometimes victory required sacrificing everything you were to preserve everything you might become. Outside the command post, Paris burned under alien fire, its ancient stones mixing with human ash in the radioactive wind. But in the depths of that hell, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy what total war truly meant. The aliens thought they understood violence. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Operation Prometheus commenced at 040 hours, Earth Standard Time, when every remaining nuclear arsenal on the planet fired simultaneously. Not at the alien fleets in orbit that would have been suicide, but at Earth's own moon. Admiral Keiko Nakamura watched from the command bunker. As humanity committed the ultimate act of tactical insanity, the Luna base had been evacuated weeks ago, its mining facilities converted into a massive nuclear stockpile. Now, as fusion fire bloomed across the moon's surface, she felt the weight of species-level desperation. Detonation successful, reported Captain Morgan Hayes from the sensor station. Luna's orbital trajectory is destabilizing, impact with Earth in approximately 6 hours. The gambit was born from humanity's bloodiest lessons. Sometimes you had to destroy everything to save anything. By shattering the moon, they were creating a debris field that would devastate Earth's surface but also trap the alien fleets in a killing field of radioactive rock and twisted metal. War Master Kethver's voice crackled over the communication channels, mechanical anger mixing with what might have been respect. Humans, you would murder your own world rather than submit? General Voss answered from his position in the ruins of Geneva, where his forces were making their final stand against converging alien armies. Welcome to total war, you son of a bitch. The first wave of lunar debris began impacting Earth's atmosphere 30 minutes later, turning the sky into a burning apocalypse. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Their underground cities and mountain bunkers designed to survive the very holocaust they created. Above ground, the battle for Earth's surface reached a crescendo of violence that dwarfed every previous conflict in human history. In the ruins of New York, Colonel Maria Santos led the remnants of the Atlantic Defense Corps through subway tunnels flooded with alien bioweapons and human nerve gas. Her soldiers, wearing sealed environmental suits, moved like ghosts through the poisoned darkness. Contact ahead, whispered Sergeant First Class David Kim, his thermal imaging showing a cluster of HFY warriors advancing through the Grand Central Terminal. The aliens had learned to fight in close quarters, but they'd never faced an enemy willing to turn their own world into hell. Santos hand signaled for her demolitions expert, Private Liu Wei, to position his charges. The young soldier, barely 18 and already scarred by weeks of continuous combat, crept forward through the toxic fog that filled the station. The improvised explosive device that Liu planted wasn't just conventional explosives. It was a fusion of human ingenuity and desperation. Nuclear material scavenged from destroyed power plants, mixed with chemical weapons and wrapped in shrapnel made from melted down civilian infrastructure. When it detonated, the Grand Central Terminal became a crater of radioactive death. 12 HFY warriors died instantly, their biomechanical forms shredded by metal fragments traveling at hypersonic speeds. But Liu Wei died too, caught in the blast radius of his own weapon. Another one for the tally, Santos muttered, adding Liu's name to the growing list of the dead she carried in her tactical computer. 15,000 names and counting, just from her sector alone. In orbit, the space battle raged with equal brutality. The debris field from Luna's destruction had trapped both human and alien fleets in a nightmare of twisted metal and radioactive dust. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the UES Yorktown, one of humanity's last remaining capital ships, as it traded fire with a Velthari dreadnought at point-blank range. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported her damage control officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park. were venting atmosphere and losing structural integrity. The Yorktown was dying, its armor peeled away like skin from bone, but Vasquez had learned her tactics in the Martian fleet engagements, where victory meant taking your enemy with you into the dark, ramming speed, she ordered. Her bridge crew, those still alive, turned to stare at their captain. Ramming was a tactic from the age of sail, obsolete in an era of energy weapons and shields. But the Velthari shields were down, their crystalline hull cracked by debris impacts. "Ma'am?" questioned Navigation Officer Torres. "You heard me. All power to engines. If we're going to die, we're taking those crystal bastards with us." The Yorktown accelerated toward the alien dreadnought, its fusion engine screaming at beyond design specifications. The Velthari ship tried to maneuver, but the debris field restricted its movement. At the last second, Vasquez triggered the ship's self-destruct sequence. The collision vaporized both vessels in a ball of nuclear fire, adding another chapter to humanity's growing legend of Pyrrhic victories. In the command bunkers below, Admiral Nakamura marked another entry in her tactical log. 1 human capital ship, and 400 crew lost, 1 Velthari dreadnought destroyed. The exchange rate was improving. On the surface, the battle for the major cities reached its climax as lunar debris continued to rain from the burning sky. In Tokyo, General Hiroshi Tanaka led the final defense of the Imperial Palace, which had been converted into a fortress bristling with electromagnetic cannons and nuclear mines. The Hackmer assault came in waves, their biomechanical warriors, advancing through streets choked with radioactive ash and chemical fog. Tanaka's forces, dug into prepared positions that had taken months to construct, met them with everything humanity had learned about defensive warfare. "Here they come," called Major Yuki Sato from the forward observation post. 200-plus contacts, advancing on multiple axes. The first line of defense was psychological warfare speakers, broadcasting the screams of previously killed aliens, mixed with human war songs that spoke of death and glory. The Hackmer might not feel fear, but their biomechanical nature made them susceptible to sonic disruption. When the aliens reached the minefield, the real killing began. Nuclear charges buried beneath the street detonated in sequence, creating a rolling wave of destruction that vaporized the first assault wave. But more kept coming, stepping over the atomized remains of their comrades with mechanical determination. "Second wave incoming," Sato reported. "They're adapting to our mind patterns." Tanaka nodded grimly. "All units, fall back to secondary positions. Execute protocol Bushido." The withdrawal was controlled chaos, each squad covering the others as they fell back through prepared killing zones. At every checkpoint, volunteers stayed behind to operate suicide bombs and delayed the alien advance. Private Kenji Nakamura no relation to the Admiral held his position in a subway entrance until Hackmer warriors were within meters before detonating his nuclear backpack dot by dawn. Tokyo was a smoking crater populated only by the dead and dying, but the city had bought precious hours for the evacuation of civilian populations to the mountain bunkers where humanity was making its final stand. The butcher's bill for Operation Prometheus was staggering: 40 million civilian casualties, 800,000 military dead, and most of Earth's major cities reduced to radioactive rubble. But the alien fleets were trapped, bleeding, and beginning to understand that they'd made a terrible miscalculation. Humanity wasn't fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to ensure that conquest would cost more than any rational species would pay. And in the depths of the earth, in bunkers carved from living rock, the survivors were preparing for the final act of their species' bloodiest drama. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex had become humanity's last redoubt, its chambers carved deep into the Colorado granite, now housing the remnants of Earth's military command. Admiral Nakamura stood before a holographic display showing the planet's surface, a hellscape of radioactive craters and burning cities. Where the final battles raged, global casualties have exceeded 100 million, reported her aide, Commander Ramirez, his voice hollow with exhaustion. Alien losses are estimated at 40,000 combined Hackmer and Velthari forces. The mathematics of extinction were brutally simple. Humanity was trading 50 lives for every alien death, bleeding out faster than they could kill. But in the depths of the mountain, Dr. Elena Vasquez, sister to the late captain of the Yorktown, was putting the finishing touches on humanity's final gambit. "The quantum resonance weapon is ready," she announced, her radiation-scarred hands steady as she made final calibrations. "But the targeting requirements are precise. We need to lure both alien fleets into optimal position, General Voss, his uniform torn and bloodstained from the fighting above ground, studied the weapon. Schematics. The device was theoretical madness made manifest a quantum disruptor that would tear apart the atomic bonds holding matter together. The power requirements were staggering, drawing on Earth's remaining fusion reactors and the planet's own magnetic field. How close do they need to be? He asked. Within 10,000 kilometers of the Earth's surface, both fleets, simultaneously. Voss felt the weight of impossible choices. To position the aliens correctly, humanity would need to offer them an irresistible target, something worth risking their combined fleets to secure. We offer them ourselves, he said quietly. One final battle, everything we have left. The bait was elegant in its desperation. Humanity's remaining forces, perhaps 50,000 soldiers scattered across the globe, would emerge from their bunkers simultaneously, broadcasting on all frequencies that they were making a coordinated assault on the alien ground forces. The message was clear. This was humanity's last offensive, their final throw of the dice. The aliens took the bait. Within hours, both the HFY and Velthari fleets moved into low orbit, positioning themselves to provide close support for their ground forces. They had learned to respect human desperation, but they still didn't understand it. Captain Miranda Torres emerged from the Denver bunker complex, leading what remained of the Rocky Mountain Defense Corps' 300 soldiers, most wounded, all volunteers. Above them, the sky burned with the passage of alien ships positioning for the final slaughter. This is it, people, she announced over the tactical network. Everything we fought for comes down to the next hour. Make them remember that humans don't go quietly. Across the globe, similar scenes played out as humanity's survivors emerged from their holes to face impossible odds. In Australia, Major William Clark led 50 Aboriginal trackers against a HFY armored column, using the skills passed down through 60,000 years of survival to turn the outback into a killing ground. In Siberia, Colonel Anya Petrov's Spetsnaz commandos struck at Velthari communication rays, using winter warfare tactics developed during humanity's bloodiest conflicts to move like ghosts through the frozen wasteland. The battles were brief and brutal. Torres' force lasted 18 minutes against overwhelming alien firepower, selling their lives for every meter of ground. Clark's trackers vanished into the desert after inflicting casualties that would have broken the morale of any human force. But the real battle was happening in orbit, as Dr. Vasquez made final preparations for humanity's last scientific achievement. The quantum resonance weapon drew power from fusion reactors buried beneath 6 continents, channeling energy through the planet's magnetic field into a device that existed at the very edge of theoretical possibility. Both fleets are in position, reported Commander Ramirez, his sensors tracking the alien ships as they maneuvered to support their ground forces. Range, 8,000 kilometers and closing. Admiral Nakamura felt the weight of species survival pressing down on her shoulders. If this failed, humanity would be extinct within hours. If it succeeded, she wasn't sure what would be left of Earth to inherit. Dr. Vasquez, you are authorized to fire. The quantum resonance weapon didn't produce a visible beam or dramatic explosion. Instead, reality simply changed. At the subatomic level, the forces holding matter together stopped working correctly. Both alien fleets, hundreds of ships containing millions of beings, simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattering into component particles that dispersed harmlessly into space. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in weeks, Earth's orbit was clear of alien vessels. Weapon discharge successful, Dr. Vasquez announced, her voice barely a whisper. Both fleets are gone. But victory came at a price that made even hardened soldiers weep. The quantum weapon had drawn so much power from Earth's magnetic field that the planet's electromagnetic protection was failing. Without intervention, the solar wind would strip away the atmosphere within decades. General Voss stared at the tactical displays showing the dying planet's vital signs. Humanity had won, but at the cost of their homeworld's habitability, sir. Commander Ramirez called out, his voice filled with wonder. We're receiving transmissions from the outer system, multiple contacts, but they're not hostile. The new ships materialized from hyperspace with technological signatures, unlike anything they'd encountered. But when the lead vessel transmitted, the voice was recognizably human, though speaking with an accent that had been dead for centuries. This is Admiral Chen Zhao of the Colonial Defense Fleet. We received your distress signals and came as fast as we could. Earth, what have you done to Earth? The revelation hit like a physical blow. Humanity's lost colony ships, launched during the resource wars and presumed destroyed, had not only survived but thrived among the stars. They built an interstellar civilization while Earth fought for its life. Admiral Chen Nakamura responded, her voice cracking with exhaustion and hope. Earth is dying, but humanity survives. We held the line. Through the static-filled transmission, she could hear the emotion in the colonial admiral's voice. We've been watching, listening to your transmissions. The whole galaxy knows what you did here. As rescue ships began landing on Earth's ravaged surface, Voss realized that humanity's greatest victory wasn't the destruction of the alien fleets. It was the message they'd sent to the cosmos. They'd proven that some species would fight with such ferocity, such complete commitment to survival, that conquest became impossible. The galaxy had learned to fear the sound of human war drums, and in that fear, humanity had found not just survival, but respect. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Keiko Nakamura stood on the observation deck of the colonial starship New Edo, watching as the last evacuation transports lifted off from humanity's dying homeworld. The planet below was a poisoned shell, its magnetic field failing and its surface scarred by the most desperate battle in galactic history. But humanity endured. The final census is complete, reported Captain Jonas Eriksson, one of the colonial fleet commanders who had arrived late for the battle, but in time for the rescue. We've evacuated 400 million survivors from Earth. The colonial worlds can accommodate them, though it will strain our resources. Nakamura nodded, her attention focused on the memorial wall that now dominated one entire bulkhead of the ship. Names, billions of them scrolled in perpetual remembrance of those who had died, defending their species. Among them, she found the entries that still brought tears to her scarred eyes. Captain Raven Torino, who had first bloodied alien noses in the asteroid belt. Colonel Miranda Vasquez, who had died holding Geneva. Her own sister Elena, lost in the final defense of the Yorktown. Ma'am, Erickson continued, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting an audience. The irony wasn't lost on her. 6 months ago, the galaxy had been preparing to divide humanity between the Velthari Collective and the Hackwer Dominion like spoils of war. Now, the survivors of both alien civilizations were barely clinging to existence, their fleets destroyed and their homeworlds in chaos from the sudden loss of military leadership. The transmission came through on the main display, showing a diverse collection of alien species gathered in what appeared to be an enormous chamber. At the center stood Ambassador Xylin of the Arcturus Federation, her insectoid features betraying nervousness as she addressed the human survivors. Admiral Nakamura, representatives of humanity, she began, her translated voice carefully neutral. The Galactic Council extends its condolences for your losses and its respect for your victory. General Voss, now serving as humanity's chief military representative, stepped forward. His face bore new scars from the final battles, and his eyes held the weight of command decisions that had cost millions of lives. Respect, he said, the word carrying decades of bitter experience. That's a new tone from the galaxy that was preparing to watch us be exterminated 6 months ago. The alien ambassador's mandibles clicked in what their xenobiologists had identified as embarrassment. The council acknowledges that errors in judgment were made. The Velthari and Hackmer were considered the galaxy's premier military powers. Their defeat by a single species has recalibrated our understanding of warfare. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the younger sister of the weapons scientist, who had died creating the quantum resonance weapon, accessed her data pad. As the new head of Human Colonial Sciences, she had spent months analyzing the aftermath of Earth's last battle. Preliminary reports suggest that 47 different star systems have requested human military advisors, she announced. Apparently, everyone wants to learn our tactics for asymmetric warfare. The request was both flattering and horrifying. Humanity's victory had come at such a cost that entire planets were now uninhabitable graveyards. But in achieving the impossible, defeating the galactic superpowers simultaneously, they had established themselves as the galaxy's newest power brokers. What exactly is the council proposing? Admiral Nakamura asked. Ambassador Xylin's image shifted nervously. Full membership in the Galactic Council, with voting rights proportional to your demonstrated military capabilities. Additionally, The Terran Protection Protocol's no species may initiate hostilities against human settlements. Without Council authorization, Commander Felix Ramirez, now serving as Nakamura's Chief of Staff, leaned forward and in exchange, the Council requests that humanity share its military expertise, specifically training in what you call total war doctrine with member species facing existential threats. Voss exchanged glances with Nakamura. The galaxy wanted to learn how to fight like humans, how to turn entire worlds into killing fields, how to sacrifice everything for survival, how to make conquest so costly that victory became meaningless. There's something else, Dr. Vasquez added, consulting her reports. Intelligence suggests that the galaxy's current power structure is collapsing. The Velthari Collective has fragmented into dozens of competing factions. The Hakmer Dominion is facing internal rebellion as their subject species realize their masters aren't invincible. The implications were staggering. Humanity's desperate last stand had not only saved their species, it had destabilized galactic civilization itself. Species that had accepted alien domination for millennia were suddenly questioning why they had submitted to powers that could be defeated by one determined world. Admiral, came a new voice from the Colonial Fleet Communications Array. It was Captain Chanjiao, now commanding the human colonial expansion fleet. We've identified 17 star systems with habitable worlds and no sentient inhabitants. The Colonial Council is requesting permission to begin settlement operations. Nakamura felt the weight of species-level decisions pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity was homeless, but not powerless, scattered, but not broken. The galaxy that had once prepared to divide them was now asking for their help. Approved, she said, but we do this right. Every new world gets full defensive installations. From day one, we learned our lessons on Earth. As the new Edo and its sister ships began their journey toward humanity's new frontier, Nakamura returned to the memorial wall. Among the billions of names, she found one that represented everything her species had become: Lieutenant Liu Wei, the 18-year-old demolitions expert who had died in Grand Central Station. Taking a dozen alien warriors with him, his service record was typical of humanity's war generation. Too young to have chosen this fight, too brave to have avoided it, too dead to see the victory his sacrifice had purchased. But his final action summary, written by his commanding officer in the chaos of urban warfare, captured the essence of humanity's triumph. Private Liu Wei died as he lived, making the enemy pay more than they could afford for every inch of human ground. 6 months later, as human colony ships spread across the galaxy and alien civilizations restructured themselves around the new reality of human military doctrine, those words had become humanity's unofficial motto. They had learned to fight the stars not by becoming something other than human, but by becoming the most perfectly human version of themselves. The galaxy had wanted to see them broken by war. Instead, it had discovered that war was simply another teacher in humanity's endless education, and the lesson they had mastered, that some things were worth any price to defend, was one that would echo through the cosmos for generations to come. In the end, humanity's wars hadn't ruined them. They had forged them into exactly what the galaxy needed: a species too stubborn to quit, too creative to be predictable, and too human to be anything but themselves. The stars belonged to humanity now. They had paid for them in blood, bought them with sacrifice, and claimed them with the kind of victory that could only come from a species that had learned to make peace with the necessity of war. And in the depths of space, as new human worlds took root among alien suns, the message was clear: humanity had not just survived their trial by fire, they had been perfected by it.